Good morning. Had a hell of a week, haven't we? No matter who you voted for, I love you. Okay? Let's get that out on the table. However joyful you may be at what took place this weekend, or how bitter you may be, I love you. I will never stop feeling that. I will never stop saying that. I will never stop believing that. Okay. Within these walls, here in this community of love and justice, we pause in our busy lives to consider what is worthy of our deepest yearnings. In the time that we are given here, may we pay attention to the wonder of each moment. May we grieve what is lost. May we be grateful for our life on this beautiful earth. And may we prepare ourselves for the work love calls us to do. Just as we are, may we become the beloved community.
I'm so glad to see you all today. So glad to see you at the end of such a hard week. At the end of an election that has been so hard. Hey, there you are. So I know I'm feeling a lot of complicated feelings today. We've been through a time together as a country that's shown us that there is so many people who are so afraid, and so many people who are so angry, and so many people who hate. And I can't say I'm shocked. The people who are the most affected by that hate have been telling us for years about it. We know that we have not lived out our values of liberty and justice for all the way that we ought. So I'm not shocked, but I'm sad. So sad. And worried and afraid of how things might turn out for all of us, and just so brokenhearted that we let it get this far. And it's possible, maybe, that you're feeling some of those things too. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're feeling something different. It doesn't matter. Either way, it's okay. However you feel is fine. I want you to know a few things, though, so can you listen real close, because this is important to me. The first thing I want you to know is that you are never, ever alone. Every one of us here is here for you. If you are hurt or you are scared, if something has upset you, if something happens to you or to anybody else that you know is not right, please talk to somebody. find an adult that you trust and talk to them. And if they do not listen in a way that feels right to you, keep talking, keep telling people. The second thing I want you to know is that here at this congregation, we will be kind. We will be fair, and we will do our best to make sure that every person who walks through our doors is treated with respect. Everyone who asks for our help receives the best that we have to give, and that you and everybody you love will be welcome here always, and safe and protected. The third thing I want you to know is that we've been through some hard times before as a country. But always, always, there have been good people working as hard as they can, struggling to make things better, to make things kinder, to make things fairer. And they're still working, and they're going to keep on working. An awful lot of them are Unitarian Universalists, and they're at work right now, and we're going to keep on going. And we're going to keep trying to build a country where everybody is welcome and everybody is respected. And the last thing I want you to remember is that, yeah, elections matter and presidents matter, all of this matters, but it's not the only thing that matters. It's what every single one of us does every single day that makes a country better. You can do something. You can be a friend to someone who needs a friend. You can be kind to someone. You can speak up when you see or hear something that you know isn't right. You can do things to help people that are being harmed by any kind of fear or hate. We all can. And you know what? We will. So yeah, I'm sad. And yeah, I'm worried. But I'm also full of hope. I feel like to be hopeless right now would be a betrayal of everybody that fought to get us this far. So I have a book to share with you. It's called Of Thee I Sing. President Barack Obama wrote this book. He called it A Letter to My Daughters, and in it he talks about the kind of America that he wants our America to be, the America that maybe we've never really been as well as we should, but it's important, and I want to share it with you. It says, "Have I told you lately how wonderful you are? How the sound of your feet running from afar brings dancing rhythms to my day. How you laugh and sunshine spills into the room. Have I told you that you are creative?" A woman named Georgia O'Keeffe moved to the desert and painted flowers. She painted petals and bark. She helped us see the big beauty in the things that are small, the hardness of stone and the softness of feathers. Have I told you lately that you are smart, that you braid great ideas with imagination? A man named Albert Einstein turned pictures in his mind into giant advances in science and changed the world with energy and light. Have I told you lately that you are brave? A man named Jackie Robinson played baseball and showed us all how we could turn fear to respect and respect to love. He swung a bat with the grace and the strength of a lion and gave brave dreams to other dreamers. Have I told you lately that you are a healer? Sitting Bull was a Sioux medicine man who healed broken hearts and broken promises. It's fine that we're different, he said, for peace It is not necessary for eagles to be crows. Though he was put in prison, his spirit soared free, and his wisdom touched generations. Have I told you that you have your own song? A woman named Billie Holiday wore a gardenia in her hair and sang beautiful blues to the world. Her voice, full of sadness and joy, made people feel deeply and add their melodies to the chorus. Have I told you that you are strong? A woman named Helen Keller fought her way through long, silent darkness. Though she could not see or hear, she taught us to look and listen. Never waiting for her life to get easier, she gave others courage to face their challenges. Have I told you how important it is to honor the work of others? A woman named Maya Lin designed the Vietnam Veterans Memorial to remember those who gave their lives in the war, and then she designed the Civil Rights Memorial to thank the many who fought for equality. Public spaces should be filled with art, she thought, so that we can walk amidst it, recalling the past and inspired to fix the future. Have I told you lately that you are kind? A woman named Jane Addams fed the poor and helped them find jobs. She opened doors and gave people hope. She taught adults and invited children to play and to laugh and to let their spirits grow. Have I told you lately that you don't give up? A man named Martin Luther King Jr. taught us unyielding compassion. He gave us a dream that all races and creeds might someday walk hand in hand. He marched and he prayed, and one at a time he opened hearts and saw the tiny birth of a dream. Have I told you that you are an explorer? A man named Neil Armstrong was the first to walk on the moon. He watched the world from way up high, and we watched his landing leaps, which made us brave enough to take our own bold strides. Have I told you lately that you inspire me? A man named Cesar Chavez showed farm workers their power when they felt they had none. The people were poor, but they worked hard and loved the land. So Cesar picketed, prayed, and talked. The people listened to their hearts and fought for their rights. Cesar said, "Yes, you can." Have I told you that you are part of a family? A man named Abraham Lincoln knew that all of America should work together. He promised freedom to enslaved brothers and sisters, and this man of the people asked more of our country, asked that we behave like kin. Have I told you that you can be proud to be an American? Our first president, George Washington, believed in the possibility of liberty and justice for all. Barefoot soldiers crossed wintry rivers, forging ever on. He helped build an idea into a country strong and true, a country that might be a country of principles someday. Have I told you that America is made up of people of every kind? People of all races and religions, people from the coastlines and the mountains, people who have made bright lights shine by sharing their unique gifts. People who have given us the courage to lift one another up, to keep up the fight, to work and to build on all that is good in our nation. Have I told you that they can all be a part of you, that they are a part of you and you are a part of them, and that we are all the future? And have I told you that I love you?
I have two readings to share with you this morning. And one you may have heard before. This is a version of the Lord's Prayer that I wrote for non-denominational spirits. Good friend, your soul is within me now, and I hallow your spirit with my love. Our peace will come and goodwill shall be done, and we will learn our earth is our heaven. This day and all days I offer you my daily bread, my hand, and my heart. I ask your forgiveness for my injustices, and I will always offer you mine in return. And if we yield not to unkindness, we shall deliver our souls from evil. For ours is the joy to find glory in the good that we do and the love that we share. Forever and ever. Amen. This is the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. Okay, I've got my timer here. I've got a lot to say, and Janice is going to wave to me when we get to the 15-minute mark. So the first thing I want to tell you is I'm glad to be here with you today. Whatever comfort you may find in the words I have to share, I need this as much as you do. Over here, I didn't hand them out. You know the old joke about why Unitarian Universalists don't sing their hymns very well? Because they're all looking ahead to read the lyrics to see whether they agree with them or not. I've got some handouts for you. See, we can smile, you know? We can smile. I have some handouts for you, and I've got 35 sets. If that's not enough, let me know. We'll get them to you. or I'll email them to you. A 12-step plan for what to do if your candidate loses on Election Day. It's from USA Today. Read it. It's good. Autocracy, Rules for Survival. Read it. If you're a little nervous like I am, it's good stuff. A Guide to What to Do If You See a Hate Crime, with a cartoon. I didn't give this to Jen yet, but I think this is something she might want to share with the kids, and I want to tell you this works. Some years ago, I was attending some seminary classes in New York City, and a group of the students and teachers went to lunch together. And it was an Oriental restaurant, and the woman who was the maitre d', and I think the manager of the place, was in tears, and a tall male customer was badgering her. And without knowing that I was doing what is probably exactly the right thing, I went up and stood between them and shook hands with the woman. She was crying. She was sobbing. She wasn't weeping. She was sobbing. She was frightened. And I shook her hand. I said, "You and I have met, and I can't remember where. Come over here and talk with me and tell me where we've met. Help me figure this out." Never seen her before. The guy shut up and walked out. It works. And then I have a list of articles with the website addresses that I think might be good reading for any Unitarian Universalist in this time. Okay, now I'm all mixed up here. Give me a second. This doesn't count towards my time. You know, I do want to share one thing humorously. I was watching MSNBC, and one of the women hosts was talking with a woman who was a member of the Trump campaign. Both of them very nice people, and they really were having an interesting conversation. And Michael Moore had used the phrase that a vote for Trump is a Molotov cocktail that people who feel dispossessed can throw into the election process. I thought it was a great metaphor. And the woman with the Trump campaign was clearly tired, and she tried to say Molotov cocktail, and what she said was it was a Mazel Tov cocktail. And later that day, I saw it on Facebook, and somebody wrote, "I had one of those at my bar mitzvah." It really it made the thing exciting. So what happened? Well, it was certainly the greatest political upset in United States history. I think I know presidential history reasonably well. I can't think of anything close to it. And it certainly would be considered, I think, in the top 5 or 10 of all of the political upsets, peaceful political upsets in the history of the world. Listen to me carefully. I'm not reading this list of facts because I'm trying to beat up on Donald Trump. This ties in very closely with the main theme of my sermon. Who won Donald Trump? A person who's been married 3 times. He cheated on all 3 wives. He bragged about sexually assaulting women. He filed for bankruptcy 4 times. He attacked a fallen United States soldier and his family. He smeared American POWs and veterans, including John McCain. He dodged the draft. He paid no income taxes for the last 30 years. He refused to release his tax returns as a presidential candidate. He has run a fake charity currently under federal investigation for fraud. He has threatened to jail his political opponent during his campaign rallies and during a presidential debate. He has been carefully assessed as having several severe and dangerous personality disorders, including narcissism and sociopathy. And he has brought a level of vulgarity and a breach of all standards of dignity into the process of a presidential campaign as we have never seen before, and he still won. What did we do wrong? If you're upset by this, we need to look at ourselves. Now, if Barack Obama had done these things, I think quite a few people would have said that he was not qualified. But it's irrelevant now. It is completely irrelevant. Trump has been elected president of the United States, and he'll be taking the oath of office in January. The Republican Party controls the United States Senate and our House of Representatives and most of the state legislatures and governorships. I mean this. I am not saying this lightly. If you voted for Donald Trump, your man won, and I congratulate you. I hope he represents our nation and the office of the presidency well and with dignity. And I mean that. If you voted for Hillary Clinton, you're probably a little bit upset and disappointed. And I'm willing to bet that a little bit upset and disappointed doesn't begin to describe your astonishment and dismay and rage and fear. I think I know how you feel. I want to make 3 points today. And I want to attempt to answer the question, why did this happen? I'll offer some feelings on some thoughts on how you should feel, how we should feel about this and try to deal with it. I will share my ideas on our responsibilities to ourselves, our families, our nation, both short-term and long-term. And I'm going to offer an apology. Well, what happened? The most astonishing analysis of this election that I've come across, the most impressive, was written by Michael Moore back in July of 2016. He offered a 5-point argument about why Trump would win the election. It is an astonishing, precise prediction of exactly how Trump won the Electoral College. He made the point that a majority of Americans now take the liberal position on just about every polling question. Equal pay for women? Check. Stronger environmental laws? Check. Abortion should be legal? Check. Legalize marijuana? No problem. More gun control? Check. Background checks? Check. A huge shift has taken place, Moore pointed out. Just ask the socialist who won 22 states this year during the primaries, Bernie Sanders. And there's no doubt in Moore's mind that if people could vote from their couch at home on an Xbox or a PlayStation, Hillary would win in a landslide. This is his article. 5 reasons: Midwest math or welcome to our Rust Belt Brexit. I'm watching the time carefully. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I do give you the website address where you can read this article. And no matter how strong your feelings about Trump, we people like me, perhaps like you, perhaps not, but we people, it's our fault that this has happened. I believe Trump is going to focus much of his attention on the 4 blue states in the Rust Belt of the Upper Great Lakes: Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. 4 traditionally Democratic states, but each of them have elected a Republican governor since 2010, except for Pennsylvania. In the Michigan primary in March, more Michiganders came out to vote for the Republicans, 1.32 million versus 1.19 million. Trump is ahead of Hillary in the latest polls in Pennsylvania and tied with her in Ohio. How can the race be this close after everything Trump has said and done? Well, maybe it's because he said correctly that the Clinton support of NAFTA helped to destroy the industrial states of the upper Midwest. And it did. And even though Obama did try to persuade the Republicans to extend unemployment benefits, what if they had? Middle-class people were wiped out in huge numbers in our industrialized states. And we sat in our chairs and watched the news. When Trump stood in the shadow, this is still Michael Moore, when Trump stood in the shadow of the Ford Motor Factory during the Michigan primary, he threatened the corporation that if they did indeed go ahead with their planned closure of that factory and move it to Mexico, he would slap a 35% tariff on any Mexican-built cars shipped back to the United States. It was sweet, sweet music to the ears of the working class of Michigan. And when he tossed in his threat to Apple that he would force them to stop making their iPhones in China and build them here in America, hearts swooned, and Trump walked away with a big victory that should have gone to the governor next door, John Kasich. Pardon my vulgarity, but Michael Moore summed it up. Voting for Trump for middle-class people who we allowed to have their jobs wiped out was the biggest f you in history. And I don't blame them. But I'm a liberal. I voted for Barack Obama. I can prove it. I've got my credentials. And I sat in my armchair, I listened to Rachel Maddow, I listened to Morning Joe, I read the New York Times, I read the New Yorker, and I did nothing. The second point he makes is the last stand of the angry white man. He starts with Nixon, the gender traitor who imposed Title IX, forcing colleges and high schools to allow girls to play just as much sports as men. Then Beyoncé stormed out on the field at this year's Super Bowl, the man's game, with an army of black women, fists raised, declaring that our domination of our culture was hereby terminated. The white guy was getting it. There's a small peek into the mind of the endangered white male. There is a sense that the power has slipped out of their hands, that their way of doing things is no longer how it's done. Somebody made a very, very good point. If you've been used to privilege all your life, when you're treated with equality, you feel like your privilege has been taken away. The Hillary problem, point number 3. And again, in the interest of time, he goes into detail. Hillary was a deeply flawed candidate. Despite disapproval ratings of 70%, we allowed the Democratic National Committee to manipulate the process, and she didn't have a chance, or Bernie Sanders didn't have a chance against her. I didn't get upset about that. I like Bernie Sanders, but to say that she won that she won fair and square, no. She had a ringer, Deborah Wasserman Schultz, and it made a difference. Then he talked about the depressed Sanders vote, especially with the millennials. And he said a lot of millennials will go out and vote, but the difference between the millennials voting for Clinton and the millennials voting for Obama was the Obama millennials brought 10 people with them, volunteered time, knocked on doors. Hillary didn't have that. And it goes on, there's more stuff. Read the article. But the final thing he talked was the Jesse Ventura aspect of it, where people just want to go into the voting booth and be mischievous, be a voting booth anarchist, and just vote against the system for the sake of voting against the system. But the most astonishing thing about that article is how he talked about the numbers in the Electoral College and got it right on, but he made the point, he could win without Florida, he could win without North Carolina, he could win without Georgia. He won them all. How should we feel? How should we try to deal with this loss and our new circumstances? In this part of my sermon, I especially want for those of you who voted for Trump. I recognize, I think, why you did. I'm willing to give you odds that if you were a Trump voter, a significant part of the reason you voted for him was that you felt that the nation, your neighbors, the system, and the people who have been managing our system have ignored you, have been unaware of your growing suffering and alienation. This election has forced me to do some serious and unpleasant self-assessment and some growing up. I haven't been paying attention to you who have been displaced. I've called myself a liberal and I've patted myself on the back for supporting our first African-American president, but I haven't paid nearly as close attention to the economic affairs of my fellow citizens as I should have. Shame on me. I'm sorry. I'm white. I'm comfortable. I allowed myself to become complacent and intellectually and spiritually lazy. If you voted against Donald Trump, I'll quote John Belushi in the great American film drama, Animal House. My advice to you is to start drinking heavily. After the service. Kidding aside, I have several sets of articles, and please read them. They'll help. So what are our responsibilities? Pro-Trump, anti-Trump, pro-Hillary, whatever. I'm not kidding when I say I'm very proud. I'm not very proud of my lack of awareness and my lack of participation in the political process in the last 8 years. I have failed as a citizen, and I have failed as a responsible adult. I have been what I call an armchair citizen. I have been passive. And I've said it before, listening to Morning Joe and Rachel Maddow, reading the Times and the New Yorker are not enough. Posting angry or condescending memes on Facebook, not enough. And I did it with great enjoyment. If you voted for President-elect Trump, you have a responsibility to hold him to account. You have a responsibility to study his appointments and how he, and how he develops his policies, his domestic and foreign. You have a responsibility to get up out of your armchair, to get involved, and stay informed. If you didn't vote for Trump, you must help your representatives and the people who speak for the liberal organizations and institutions that you support to do their work more effectively and to reach a broader base of voters. You must express and demonstrate a greater level of compassion and concern for those of us who have been economically displaced. Shame on us. You want to know the most disgusting thing about this election, and I mean this seriously, in my opinion? 46.6% of the eligible voting population did not vote. Wow. But xenophobia, misogyny, racism, blatant compulsive lying, and ignorance of our constitutional system and the laws that enable it to thrive do not win elective office when people feel included in the system, when they feel cared about and cared for by the system and their fellow citizens. Political and spiritual hopelessness do not grow in gardens of prosperity. When planted there, the seeds of hatred do not take root, and they have never been given the chance to thrive. You, my proud fellow liberals, and I have a responsibility also to hold Trump to account. We also have a responsibility to study his appointments and how he develops his policies, domestic and foreign. We have to get up out of our armchairs, to get involved, to stay informed, and to stay involved. The damage that will be done in the next 4 years by the failed economic policies, the dangerous foreign policies of the men and most likely very few women who will be advising President Trump, will be extensive. 70 years of social progress will be weakened or reversed. We will see the rebirth, if you'll pardon a somewhat obscene pun, of the back alley abortion. Domestic violence will be prosecuted less often, black lives will matter significantly less, and families of Latin birth will be torn apart, and millions of people will be violently removed from their homes and our nation. Our environment will further be brutalized. Mother Earth's ability to feed us and sustain us will be further diminished, and great masses of our population, if not in the next 4 years, in the next 20, will be confronted with starvation and epidemics of terrifying proportions because of global warming. In grim brevity, I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. Our responsibilities are enormous. Our burdens will be exhausting and often brutally disheartening, but we must accept these burdens. We owe it to our founding fathers and mothers. We owe it to our precious liberties. We owe it to ourselves for the sake of our own integrity and dignity. And we owe it to our children and all of the generations that will live after us. We must endeavor to carry these new and terrible burdens with good cheer, with hope, compassion, forbearance, dignity, and the belief in the rightness of our cause as liberals, politically, economically, and spiritually. We must climb out of our comfortable armchairs and write letters, give speeches, educate, and march. We must protect and preserve the safety of the dispossessed and all of those who are more vulnerable than ourselves. We must protect and defend and preserve the Constitution of the United States and the American dream of equality of opportunity and the inherent worth and dignity of every single living human soul. And when the healing time comes, when the compassion and sense of our cause becomes the language and once again the creed of our nation and the world, then with malice towards none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up our nation's wounds, to care for those who have borne the battle and for those they have left behind, to do all which may achieve and establish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and all nations. And we must never give up. We are Unitarian Universalists. Our work will never be done, but the hope brought forth by our labors and our example will live on forever. Amen.